The other day, I was playing the Cayo Perico heist for the first time in years, about the time when it kind of first came out. And I was immediately reminded of why I hadn't kept on playing it. I realised it's just not fun. It's not fun to play. The controls, well, GTA controls in general are clunky, but it's especially kind of prevalent in this heist. The setup missions are tedious. The kind of eternally spawning enemies are just annoying. They have exceptional aim, as is typical with GTA Online these days. And overall, it's just quite boring, to be quite frank. But I think the biggest problem for me was the stealth aspect. So we're encouraged to do this heist in a stealthy manner. That's the only way you want to do this heist. And, a heist like this, that's part of the appeal. Sneaking around an island, a heavily guarded island, and stealing all these things. But the problem is that GTA is just not good at stealth mechanics, I think. The way this heist works, you have to kind of sneak around the island and get whatever's in El Rubio's safe, as well as some additional extras that are kind of scattered across different points of the island. And as I say, in theory, that sounds like a lot of fun, sneaking around this island, especially you can do it at night when it's a bit rainy and it's very atmospheric and cool. But in practice, it's just not fun at all. As I said, firstly, like making your way around the island is tedious and boring and repetitive and clunky. I mean, you have to stay off the roads, obviously, but then you kind of have to maneuver yourself between all these indestructible trees and bushes, which are really difficult to get around and are just really annoying. You're constantly kind of having to find your way around these things, and it's just really annoying. And I think this is also like a wider GTA problem, where the driving mechanics are great, the shooting mechanics are decent, but the walking, running, climbing mechanics are terrible. I think that's a wider problem. And then also another problem with the stealth mechanics and this heist in particular is that despite using suppressed guns, somehow guards can still be notified that you're there. And also, you can't move or hide the bodies of guards that you've just killed, meaning that another guard just comes along, comes across the body, sounds the alarm, and then once that alarm sounds, you're just in for a world of pain. The enemies just keep spawning and spawning, and the worst of them are the helicopters, because, you shoot one down and immediately another one is there. And they've got impeccable aim. If you're driving, they'll shoot out the tyres. If you're on foot, you're not going to survive too long. And no matter where you are on the island, they keep spawning and they always know exactly where you are. And overall, I think it just feels like GTA was not made as a stealth game. It was made for these big kind of action sequences, these big loud heists, these massive shootouts, these explosions and stuff, but they've tried to introduce these stealth elements into the mechanics later on, and they just don't work properly. It definitely feels like that rather than a game, and there are plenty of games like this where the stealth mechanics are nice and integrated into the proper game from the beginning. And I felt this way a bit with some of the setup missions for the Cluckenbell raid, I think it was called as well. Kind of just, you were supposed to go in stealthy, but you knew that fairly quickly you were going to be caught and have a massive shootout anyway, and the whole stealth aspect felt kind of pointless. But the tropical kind of setting of Cayo Perico also reminded me of some of the Far Cry games, and reminded me of how fun the stealth can be in those games. The way you you find maybe a cliff or something, a spot where you can survey the area, and then you stealthily kind of liberate those outposts with suppressed weapons or with a machete or whatever, and you take down the guards one by one, or you do the thing where you shoot the crate that's got, a dog or a bear or something in it, and it attacks the guards. I used to love doing that, and I thought it was so much fun. And instead, when I was playing the Cayo Perico heist, instead of making me want to keep on playing GTA Online, it made me want to switch off and play like Far Cry 3 or whatever instead, which is not really what you want in a game. And again, that is an example. I think the Far Cry series, it's got plenty of flaws, especially the more recent game. I mean, Far Cry 3 is amazing. Some of the more recent ones are not as good. But stealth is properly integrated into those games. So it's a lot more of a smoother experience. You know, sneaking around, hiding in the bushes even, taking out enemies quietly. It works so much more smoothly and it's more fluid. And the same thing goes for like the Hitman games. I mean, the Hitman games are a prime example of how to do a stealth game. I mean, stealth is the entire point of that game. And just imagine how much more enjoyable the heists in GTA could be if they were a bit more like in Hitman or even Far Cry when you're liberating those outposts and so on. And so that's one thing that I'm really hoping to see in GTA 6 or in the new version of GTA Online, better stealth mechanics. And we know from the leaks a couple of years ago that we will be able to restrain hostages, for example, and carry and move bodies around. So hopefully these kinds of mechanics mean that we can properly enjoy these stealthy missions and they run a lot more smoothly.